Hi guys, it's story time. I got me a nice keef encrusted fucking ganja bomb here. Um, Today I wanted to tell the story of my buddy Chazmo. Now some people that see this video might have known Chazmo, and everybody that knew Chazmo loved Chazmo. It's the kind of person he was. Giant, 6'7", something like that. Not real thick. Big old beard, big old personality, big old hawk German nose. Charles Bauer. Um, I had a certain amount of, let's say, liquid refreshments of the lysergical variety. Now, I was fairly young at the time and was fairly displeased with peddling blotters at the fucking parties. And a friend of mine told me, hey, I think I know a guy that can help you out. And this was right after a fucking snowstorm and in the middle of a really fucking cold snap. And I'm like, well, let's go meet this dude. He said, we'll roll up some doobies and we'll go out and meet him. Him and his partner will be out trimming apple trees. So me, my buddy, and this other dude we know go out to find these guys in the apple orchard. We find their truck. We go walking out there. Now I noticed right away that the two guys I'm walking with are having one hell of a fucking hard time because the snow is about that far above their knees and there's a crust of ice on top of it about that thick, but they're busting through it. And I'm small enough and light footed enough that I'm just coasting along, not having any problems. I'm not busting through the ice. And we get out there to where these guys are, and the first thing I notice is that Chazmo and his partner James are both walking on top of that crust like I am. And Chazmo is 225 pounds. I'm like, oh, well, these guys are different. So I smoke a doobie with him. I start kicking it, and he helped me out. And through the process of him helping me out, I started hanging around there quite a bit. And then I started kind of staying there and farming. And he was teaching me all about farming and how to do the mechanics of it, and this and that and the other thing. That's pretty fucking tasty right there. And we talked a little bit about weed, and mostly it was me listening to him talk. Now, this cat was known as the Ganj Father. He fucking grew some dank ass weed. Everybody loved his weed. He was a breeder, bred some really nice strains. And there was a couple of guys that he got the credit for their work that were the behind the scenes that had more to do with it than he did. But anyway, he was the Ganj Father. And we never really talked about weed, about growing it that much. I mean, we talked about peppers and fucking. I'm learning about vegetables and organic truck farming from him stuff, you know. And a couple years into knowing him, the farm scene was really, really hot, and then we couldn't grow weed. And The crop that we had going somewhere else got hit real bad, got ripped off. So we weren't gonna have any green pop for the winter. Womp womp womp. No bueno. So I'm going to see my cousin. Me and Chaz plan a camping trip. Listen, we gotta go up there. It's gonna take a couple days because he's a weird fucker. He's gonna want to get to know you. But we're gonna go up there and we're gonna go deer hunting with him. Two vegetarians. We're gonna go deer hunting with him. It's bow season. Second or first bow season. So we go up there and I introduce him. This dude breaks out, my cousin, breaks out a doobie, sparks it up, hands it to Chaz. Chaz hits it. And for the first time since I told him about this, he sits up on the fucking tractor that he's leaning on and says, I'll be dead. Starts coughing. Impressed immediately. Right? So he starts asking Board all these questions about how he grows it. And every time he asks him a question, Board looks at me and then answers him. And finally, Board says, why didn't you just ask Doug these questions? He says, how would Doug know how you grow? And he says, because Doug's the one that showed me how to do it. So we make our arrangements, and that night we go up on these sand dunes called Sleeping Bear Sand Dunes. I know some super secret spots up on them sand dunes that very few people know how to access. And I got this little secret camping spot, and there's this huge stand of baby's breath that when the sun goes down, it turns the most brilliant colors with the sunset behind it, and that baby's breath. It's just a beautiful spot up on the sand dunes, way up above Lake Michigan. And Chaz and I sat there smoking doobies, ran down the sand dune, took a dip in the lake, burr. It's cold up there. It's fucking deer season, right? Went back up, made a little fire, got warmed up, made some fucking burritos, heated up some burritos with tinfoil. And we sat there till 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning watching Shooting Stars and talking about growing weed. And it was the first time he realized I knew about growing weed like a motherfucker. And I knew the history of weed, and I knew the fucking mythology of weed, and fucking man, holy shit. And I know weed, okay? So, on the way home, we're talking about all this shit, and he's like, you know, how come you don't talk about this? How come you don't teach these kids how to grow and shit? I said, because I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want people asking me 90 million questions. Now, I don't mind teaching now that I'm a little bit older, but when I was younger, I was in motion, motherfucker. Get out the way. I ain't got time for your shit. So, I had this relationship with him that was different than most people's. Because Charles was very, very well educated. And he had a lot of very, very well educated friends. Charles was also very brash and had a lot of very brash friends. Charles also was very vicarious and had a lot of very vicarious friends. Chaz was also fucking crazy and had a lot of fucking crazy friends. And I'm one of the few people that matched him psychosis for psychosis, so to speak. I was well read. I did understand the universe and what was going on around me. I didn't carry a whole lot of attachments. And as I proved to him a few years later, I was unswervable in my conviction. When I decided something was what it was, that's what it was, and you're gonna have to fucking move me. Right? So people on the outside, from outside the farm that just visited there or worked there, or even to some degree his family, had this viewpoint of our relationship as me being subordinate to him. And my nickname was Toady and he was the Duke. And it was a running joke that we had with each other. So some bad things happened in my life, personally. A very, very good friend of mine uh, was brutally gang raped in prison and then killed himself. Um, and I had just heard the story and got very, very drunk and was very, very angry and was yelling at the tree about it. I drank most of a half gallon of vodka. I was literally trying to kill myself with fucking Stoli. And was screaming at the fucking tree, and then I threw the bottle at the tree. And Chaz came outside and decided he was gonna shut me the fuck up. I didn't want to shut up. And by his admission, he'd never been in a fist fight, and he'd only ever hit somebody twice before, and that was 25 or 30 years ago, before this happened. And that night ended up with him hauling off and socking me as hard as he could about 6 times. You see this scar right here? That's what that's from. He opened my face completely up. And every time he hit me, I said, "You hit like a fucking bitch. And I'm not gonna fucking shut up no matter how many times you hit me." And he kept hitting me until he fucking sprained his wrist. And then he went back in the house and went to bed. And I did not shut up. And when morning came, and I was there with a hangover and a cup of coffee, I still wasn't going to shut up. Lesson learned. Some people cannot be swayed. Even if my conviction is in something wrong, it is what it is. And to end that story, about a year later, him and I got involved in an altercation. And I'll leave the names out of it, but it was a domestic violence type of altercation, and it was very violent. And at one point, the young man involved kicked me in my balls, which made me take a step back. Not out of pain, more of a wind up. And as I'm winding up, he's stepping forward towards me, the guy that just kicked me in the balls, with his finger like this. Charles reaches out and grabs him by the back of his hair, like that. And just as he makes contact with the back of his hair, I unleashed a fucking dragon straight down the pipe and sprained Charles's wrist again while making this kid's eyes, one of them rolled up and one of them rolled down, and then they went zero, zero, zero on his way to the floor. It was one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life. Starched his fucking ass in the living room. Charles was running back and forth across the fucking kitchen, holding his wrist again, looking for ice. And by that time, we got girl in the car and out of there. And we still ended up having to fucking, Charles and I, hold this little fucker down. The next day, we're sitting at the kitchen table. Charles has got his fucking inflatable cast on his wrist again. And he says, Doug, remember the last time I wore this wrist? I said, yeah, when you socked me in the head. He says, yeah, I was just thinking about that night. And I would just like to thank you for not hitting me back. He says, Jesus Christ, dude. I don't know how that little fucker lived through that. He said, fuck, you hit hard. I said, I told you you hit like a bitch. I was lying. He did not hit like a bitch. I've been hit a lot, as you can imagine. With a mouth like mine, I've been hit. I've been hit by a lot. I've been hit by big motherfuckers, small motherfuckers, accurate motherfuckers with shit taped in their hands, fucking hands full of dirt. You ever see somebody do that? Use a handful of fucking dirt? Make your hand like a rock? Some prison shit, dude. Charles was in the top 10. I was seeing little half moons going on. Ding, ding, ding. Ooh, you hit like a bitch. Fuck, that hurt. But I learned to relate to plants in ways that I wouldn't have without him. My connection to plants had always been intellectual and physical, and there is an emotional level to it as well. And I hesitate to use the word spiritual because it's bullshit. Your body exudes energetic fields, and you can use those energetic fields to influence the energetic fields around you in a multitude of ways. Just put it that way. Who am I getting a text from at 11 o'clock at night? How dare you? That wants a couple more things. So, yeah, if he was still alive, he would owe me $1,000,000 because he bet me on a handshake $1,000,000 that weed would never be legal in the state of Michigan. Killed by a drunk driver, 1994. Five. Very long time ago. Same year as Jerry Garcia died. And Carl Sagan and Isaac Asimov. Isn't that weird? Tough year. Anyway, I got shit to do. This has been story time. I'll probably tell some more stories about my buddy Chaz and some of our cohorts, other freaks, at some point. Night, y'all.